NFL show, as always, is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Make sure you use the promo code TGT20 for 20% off and free shipping on your first purchase. I am your host, Mike Goodpastor. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing good. How about you?
All right. And, of course, there's always got to be an old guy on the show, and that would be 1981 national champion Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good today. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year. So, Steve, did you do anything entertaining last night?
No, we ate Kentucky Fried Chicken and watched some Jeopardy and some balls dropping and went from there.
All right. Sam, did you do anything as exciting as what Steve did?
I was actually probably more boring than that, honestly. I have like a pretzel factory thing near us. We got a bunch of pretzels, and that was basically it.
How about you, Michael?
I just did what I always do, Steve. I chill.
And played with yourself.
Very exciting.
No, Steve, I don't do what you do. All right, let's go ahead. We have a huge week up. It looks like a little COVID's going to terrorize the Dolphins and the Browns. But we're going to start off in the NFC East with the Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a huge game, Sam, and it's a huge game for the Redskins. Can they get this done? Who's going to play quarterback in this game?
Yeah, they're relying on Alex Smith being able to come back, but he sat out practice Wednesday. They kind of planned that. They're listing Taylor Heineke as a starter. They're hoping that Alex will still be able to go, but they're in the week making sure Heineke gets the progressions as though he was going to be the star in this week's game. And I think they're going to really try to push it. I think they might force Alex Smith back into the game here just to start off, but I really don't believe he's going to be 100% healthy. He might be maybe 75% healthy. I don't see a chance that he's 100% healthy for this game.
All right, Sam, did Eagles win the game or did the Redskins?
I'll still lean towards Washington just because of that defensive front. I know Philly may have the more explosive offense at this point, but Jalen Hurts, he's made a lot of mistakes. He's going to sports star of his career. I think Washington will have just enough defensively to pull this off.
All right, and my thing with the mistakes is this Jalen Hurts making mistakes, or is just the fact that in Philadelphia, there's not enough weapons around no matter what quarterback is, whether it's a veteran Carson Wentz or a young Jalen Hurts. I mean, is this on the quarterbacks, or Steve, is this just a lack of weapons?
I agree with you. It's a lack of weapons overall. They've got a quarterback controversy, obviously, but I don't think that's what's dragging this team down as much as just a lack of weaponry all the way around in their armor. And I think I agree with you. It doesn't matter who they play. I think that the Eagles were just a little bit in disarray, more so than anybody right now of the teams that are vying for the NFC East, because I think they believe they should have probably run away with this conference, and they didn't. They don't even control their own destiny, I don't believe, do they?
Who's that? Who are you talking about?
Eagles.
No, the Eagles are done. I mean, this is the Eagles play for nothing. The Redskins play for the division. If the Redskins win the game, they win the division.
All right.
So who are you picking?
I'm going to go with Washington. I think Alex Smith, he's a brave young man. I think he has a better game than we expect him to. And I agree with Sam, the defensive front is just too strong for that football team. And actually, they were saying that for the Eagles, this will be their, I think, 15th different starting combination of offensive lines in 16 games. So they are not set on their offensive line, which means that may be why Hurts and Wentz both are struggling. Can't get any continuity in your offensive line. So,
well, I think it's both of those things we just talked about together, the lack of weaponry and that. Steve Rizzer has a comment. It's crazy to think the Giants, that if the Giants win, I'll have to root for the Eagles on Sunday night. He also says outside of Sanders, the Eagles are terrible skill position-wise. Chase Young has been pretty great lately, Steve says. I think this. Who you picking, Riz?
I said I'm picking Washington.
You're picking Washington. Is Antonio Gibson playing in this game, Sam?
I believe you. I looked at it yesterday and said they were planning on having him available for the game.
All right. I think if Gibson plays, they're going to be missing Terry McLaurin, which worries me big time. I'm going to go with Washington just because I think the big key, and I think Steve hit on it, can't believe I'm saying that, but is the Eagles' offensive line. It's not very good. They're in disarray. I think Chase Young is going to, as the youngsters say nowadays, I think he's going to eat tomorrow. I think the Washington Redskins will wrap this division up on Sunday night. Next up, NFC East, Cowboys-Giants. The winner of this game will get to watch Sunday night, as Steve Rizzer said, and cheer for the Philadelphia Eagles, which I don't think either team's used to doing. When you look at this, the Giants have been in disarray since that upset in Seattle, Steve. And, they finally found their offensive groove with Andy Dalton. Kellen Moore has called great games over the last 2 weeks. I think the issue here is going to be the Giants, and can they score enough points to win the game?
With Andy Dalton, yes, I believe they can. I personally, and I'm going to catch some flack from both of you for this, I think in that division, the Cowboys are playing the best football of any team and could make the biggest dent in the playoffs of any of the teams that are vying for that. Washington, Giants, and Cowboys. I would say that the Cowboys have the ability to do more damage than any of the other two teams. They don't control their own destiny is the problem. I believe they'll handle New York pretty easily. Because I love Andy Dalton as a quarterback. I would just love to see them, trade him to the Colts is what I love because they're going to go back to Prescott as soon as he's healthy again, justifiably, because Dak's a good quarterback too. But I think the Cowboys win. I think that they're playing the best football in that division right now. But I just don't know if they can get over the hurdle of not controlling their own destiny.
Well, they beat the Bengals and the 49ers, so I'm not going to read too much into that. I can tell you
that.
And
also the Cowboys have beaten the Giants 7 times in a row now. So
yeah.
This will be number 8.
So
sorry, Sam. I'm stealing all of Sam's statistics.
So this is the thing. Sam, it's too early in the morning. Sam has no statistics. He still hadn't even figured out how to get his computer working an extra box right now. He's so tired. But I think that if the Redskins have their starting running back, their starting quarterback, and Terry McLaurin, I think they are easily more dangerous than the Cowboys. And you can just look back to Thanksgiving, a little over 4 weeks ago, when Washington beat Dallas to within an inch of their lives. Sam?
Yeah, no, I think they're not as good. Dallas at the peak is not as good as Washington when they're fully healthy. I think Washington is the more complete football team when healthy.
But
I like their defense.
I will agree
better
with Steve over the last couple of weeks because Washington hasn't been healthy and Dallas has been the better team.
Yeah, if we're talking about just this weekend right now, Dallas is probably a better football team than Washington because they're healthier.
Yeah.
And I think looking at this game against the Giants, haven't been able to create anything offensively with Daniel Jones right now. He's not 100%. He even said, I think, this past weekend, he's having to play more from the pocket because Daniel Jones, his legs aren't fully healthy. He can't run the way he usually does. If Daniel Jones is limited, and frankly, he's not a great quarterback to begin with, if he's more limited than usual, I don't see a way the Giants can win this. I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and Steve Rizzer, Washington is more dangerous because of the front four. They could give Brady trouble in the playoffs. I agree. I think that Washington defense could give Brady trouble in the playoffs because the Tampa Bay offensive line is a huge issue. I don't think Dallas would pose any threat to Tampa Bay. And let's face it, I think Washington, the threat would be very, very moderate. And, I mean, that would be basically Chase Young breaks Tom Brady's back or something. Then it would be an issue. Next up, so we all agree there. We're all taking the Cowboys. Next up, the New Orleans Saints against the Carolina Panthers. The Saints still have an outside shot to get the number 1 seed. Sam, they're going to be playing for the number 1 seed against the Panthers. Who wins this game? Teddy Bridgewater is going to have limited weapons again.
Yeah, I don't see a way that the Panthers win this. It has to be the Saints here. And if you're New Orleans at this point, yeah, you have that outside shot getting that number 1 seed. That's ideally how you finish the year with that number 1 spot in the bye week to maybe get Michael Thomas back and healthy. But I think the biggest concern has to be getting Drew Brees right. He did not look the first half against Kansas City. He had 2 interceptions last week against Minnesota, and that's not a very good defense. Just get Drew Brees calmed down, get him adjusted again, and have him have a good game. If Drew Brees can get back on track, then maybe the Saints can make some noise. But the way he's playing right now, I'd be very concerned about the Saints making a deep playoff run.
Well, and just picking this game right now, I think it's safe to say that I don't trust Drew Brees, but I trust Alvin Kamara, and Alvin Kamara is enough to win this game by himself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw last week he had 6 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara is the top running back in the NFL right now. You can't possibly pick against him, and the Panthers won't have Christian McCaffrey or their backup running back Mike Davis.
All right, so me and Sam are going with the Saints. Steve, who you got?
Yeah, I was reading up on this game, and the bold prediction for this game was Kamara won't score 6 touchdowns in this game. That's the bold prediction. I think Drew Brees continues to wind up. He's always dangerous. Drew Brees is one of those guys, if he gets in a groove and a game gets going emotionally and they're playing good, and Kamara is certainly the combination of Kamara and Brees coming back and getting stronger every game makes the Saints very, very dangerous in the playoffs. So I don't think it's even a close game. I think the Saints walk away from this one.
I will say this. I think it will be a close game for at least a half, because the one thing about the Panthers is they've played hard all year, so I don't think they're going to lay down. But, yeah, I think the Saints will end up winning this game probably by
and if the Colts have only had to play the Steelers for 40 minutes instead of 60, they'd be locked into the playoffs. So, unfortunately, Mike, the game's played for 2 halves.
Unfortunately, Steve, it's not nice to be a smartass, but I was just making the point the game would be closer than the blowout you made it seem to seem. Next up,
I'm learning to be a smartass. I just learned from you.
No, you wouldn't. You've had 68 years of practice to be a smartass.
Uh-huh.
Wait, I think I was just a smartass. All right, next up, the Arizona Cardinals will play the LA Rams. Sam, who's starting at quarterback? Is Kyler Murray going to start?
Yeah, Kyler Murphy is healthy. He's going to give it a go. Obviously, he's not going to be 100%. Try to make sure he starts. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a backup quarterback come in eventually, but he's planning on at least giving it a go at the beginning of the game.
All right, so Cardinals or Rams, Steve?
Well, obviously they don't have Goff now. I know none of us are that impressed with Goff as a quarterback, but he still is a steady influencer for that offense. He's a known commodity, and now you're going into the game without a known commodity. But I still think the strength of the defense of the Rams is strong enough, and Kyler Murray is kind of all over the map. He's capable of blowing you up, and he's capable of blowing himself up. Overall, if I was going to bet $1 out of my wallet, I'd bet it on the Rams. So I'm going to take the Rams in this one.
All right, Sam?
Either Goff, they don't have Cooper Kupp either, so they're missing key offensive weapons. The thing is, I don't know what Kyler Murray looks like. If he's not able to run the way he usually is, I don't 100% trust him to be a pocket passer, so I would have to side with the Rams here just based on defense. The Rams have a much better defense than Arizona this year, and I think that will be the difference maker in the situation, especially if Murray can't run away from Aaron Donald.
What's wrong, Steve?
No, nothing.
Well, you were going like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Don't tell us. All right. I believe the Cardinals win this game. I don't think that John Wolford or whatever the hell his name is going to be able to put any points up. The Rams defense will be good. I think the Cardinals win something like 17-13. And the other thing we got in the back pocket is Chris Streveler. Don't you think, Steve?
What's your question?
Chris Streveler, I think, is the biggest difference here.
Who is Chris Streveler?
He is the guy who is the backup quarterback to Kyler Murray.
Oh.
So Chris Streveler is a lot better than John Wolford.
Who's starting at quarterback for the Rams?
John Wolford, I think, isn't it, Sam?
Wolford?
Yeah, John Wolford.
Yeah, I don't think the quarterback's going to win this either. I don't think either quarterback is going to win this game for either team. Although I think Kyler Murray has the greatest chance of being one that does. I think if the Cardinals win, it would be because of Kyler Murray. But I think that the Rams have a strong enough defense they can overcome Wolford at quarterback over Goff, because Goff hadn't given him crap in the last 3 weeks anyway.
Yeah, but even though we don't like Jared Goff, I'm betting there's a big difference between Jared Goff.
I'm sure there is. Yeah, he's a steady influencer.
All right, next up, the Miami
Dolphins. Sam and I took the Rams, and you took
I take the Cardinals.
Cardinals, okay.
All right, next up, the Miami Dolphins will go to Buffalo to battle the Buffalo Bills. So our update is this. Ryan Fitzpatrick is out. This is the first time I've really seen people, Steve, freak out about a backup quarterback not being able to play.
Fitzmagic is out?
Yeah, he's got the COVID.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, and there's only a 99.4% chance he's going to survive.
I know. Without the vaccine.
Well, there's a better chance he'll die with the vaccine probably than without it. Who you like here, Sam? Dolphins or Bills?
It's got to be the Bills here. I mean, the Dolphins have a very good defense, but I can't trust Tua in a big game like this yet. We saw you like 94 yards in 3 quarters against, was it the Raiders the other week? I don't trust Tua in a big situation yet. I'm taking Josh Allen.
All right, my question is this. Are the Bills going to play to win the game, or are the Bills going to chill out in the second half?
From what I've heard so far, they have not said what they're doing yet. They're trying to keep it behind closed doors for some reason. They haven't announced it yet. I would assume they're going to play from the sounds of it. They have not released like an official statement as of yesterday, at the very least, of what they're going to do.
All right, Steve, what do you think? Dolphins or Bills?
Well, obviously I'm rooting for the Bills because if the Dolphins lose and the Colts beat the Jaguars, Colts are in. So that's all it takes for the Colts. So obviously I'm going that direction. I think of all the teams in the NFL here, and Mike, you and I, and Sam have all touched on this, I think no football team's having more fun than playing right now than the Bills. And I just don't see this team as wanting to lay down and not try and win this game. I don't know. Is there seeding, positioning still available to the Bills?
Yeah, there is. They could beat a 2 seed over. Yeah, but I mean, what the hell is the difference between a 2 and a 3 seed with no crowd anyway?
Yeah, well, but it's opponents. You're allegedly going to play a weaker opponent, allegedly.
Yeah. So who's the 3 seed right now, Steve or Sam?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh is not. Yeah.
Okay. So who's the 4 seed? That would be the Colts Titans.
Titans would be the 4 seed right now.
Yeah. So being the 2 seed doesn't really change anything. I mean, the Bills are going to play the Steelers pretty much no matter what happens if they both win their first playoff game.
Right. Okay. So I just don't see Buffalo laying down for its city. I think that this is a proud franchise. They've come back, and I don't see them laying down.
All right, so you're picking the Bills also?
I'm picking the Bills, yeah.
I don't know.
Especially with Fitzpatrick out. That I didn't realize he was out with.
Well, but he's out, but he wasn't going to play anyways unless they needed him to play. So,
well, that's happened the last 2 or 3 games, so.
Because they chose to. I mean, the Dolphins did not look good against the Raiders. I thought John Gruden gave them the game. I think my worry here is the Dolphins really have to win the game where the Buffalo Bills don't have to win the game. But I'm going to go with Buffalo. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Tua will play well. And how about this, Sam? I believe Tua may play better if he knows there's no Fitzpatrick behind him.
I don't know about that. I mean, Brian Flores has been pretty clear about the situation with Fitzpatrick and Tua. They kind of know the rules here. From what I've understood, there's no kind of Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts situation going on there.
It doesn't matter, though. What I'm saying is, Steve, if I know I'm going to be the starter and I'm not going to be pulled under any circumstances, I'm going to be a lot more comfortable playing than if I think that, that old white guy with the beard is going to come in halfway through the third quarter to save my ass.
I mean, yeah, you play a lot more free. I remember a couple times in playing in basketball, Knight said, Rizzi, I'm going to play you the whole damn game. I'm going to wear your ass out. You're not coming out. And I ended up playing 40 minutes in the game. And boy, you just felt better. You felt like you could take more risks, take more chances. You're going to get yelled at a little bit, but that's okay. You're not going to get pulled.
Yeah.
And I know that feeling. And I think I agree with you. Great observation, Mike, with Tua. I bet he plays better knowing that Fitzpatrick is not sitting back there.
All right, so you guys are picking the Bills. I'm taking the Dolphins. The more I think about this, just needing to win, and I believe Tua why'd you just flip me off because I disagree?
Because I need the Dolphins to lose.
Well, I need them to win because I hate the Indianapolis Colts. So I'm picking the Dolphins. Next up, we have America's team, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals, battling the Baltimore Ravens. This is a game the Ravens have to win. And, hey, if you have to win, what better team to play than the Cincinnati Bengals? And the Ravens have been back to normal the last couple weeks because they run the ball. and every once in a while they can throw it partially successful. The Bengals, they're the Bengals. They beat a bad Texans team. They beat what on that night was a bad Steelers team. No offense, Sam. I think when we look at this, I think the Ravens win this game. I think we saw what the Bengals defense really was against the Texans last week, which is not very good. So I'm going with the Ravens, Sam.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. You were able to beat up Brandon had a really good game against the Texans defense that has not been good all year long. This Baltimore defense is maybe not as good as it was last year, but still a very talented unit. And I think they're going to be able just to win with their defense alone. They'll shut down Cincinnati, holding maybe 10 points, and Baltimore will probably get like 20 or 24 and win the game that way.
See, I actually believe the Bengals will score more points than that. I think they lose something like 31-20, 31-17. I think Brandon Allen is pretty good. I don't think the Baltimore defense is that great, Sam.
Yeah, I said it's certainly not as good as it was last year. Last year they had players who were performing at all pro levels at every level. That defense has not been that good this year.
All right, Steve, what do you think? I know you need the Bengals to win to get your Colts into the playoffs if they win. So you just going to go ahead and pick the Bengals?
Well, this is the first time that the Bengals have had the opportunity to have a 3-game winning streak since 2015. I have picked the Bengals the last 2 weeks, and they have come through and won. I don't know that maybe I would say probably not because of the coach, but if Baltimore's not overlooking the Bengals just a little bit, because it's the Bengals and they're thinking, well, we got the easiest pathway into the playoffs. And then they all of a sudden, and the Bengals are playing as good a football as the Bengals can. I'm going to call this my upset special of the week. And I'm going to go with the Bengals. Just catching them off guard.
So since you won last week, you figured, what the hell? I don't even need to win this week, right?
You what?
I said, since you won last week, you figured, what the hell? I'll just take a shot at it this week. I already won last week.
Oh, did I win last week?
Yeah. You know that.
I texted me that.
Yeah. You were 12-4.
Well, it's because I make these predictions and I study the teams and, so I had a talk with Forrest Gregg. So
Forrest Gregg died like 6 months ago, Steve.
Yeah, I know. We talk and, got a pathway.
Did you and Tia get the Ouija board out again?
Yeah, got the Ouija board out.
Well, hell, he's got an advantage picking this game, Sam.
I think everything on paper says that Baltimore should win this game. I just think that the Bengals are having some fun and doing things that aren't written down on paper. I'm going to be crazy and call this my upset of the week.
Well, I would already, if I bet the game, take the Bengals into points. I think it's going to be closer than people think, and also Lamar Jackson could toss them a couple. You never know.
Yeah.
Next up,
I mean, Lamar Jackson is not playing quarterback very well. He's playing quarter running back well, but his arm has been very suspect, and they're not relying on it.
His arm's not suspect. His ability to throw a football is suspect. I mean, he can throw the ball 80 yards, but it doesn't matter if you can't hit the target.
Doesn't know where it's going.
Yeah. But, all right, next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are going to start Mason Rudolph against the Cleveland Browns, Sam. Will the Browns be able to clinch a playoff spot?
Pittsburgh's resting Ben. They're resting T.J. Watt, Cameron Hayward. I would assume they're going to rest Minkah Fitzpatrick as well, along with probably Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, a bunch of the guys they need to have around for the playoffs. So it's going to be Cleveland starting unit versus a bunch of second stringers, and they're still going to find a way to lose. I'm picking Pittsburgh just to have the fun of this, picking Pittsburgh every week this year, and I'm just going to hope for it. I just want Pittsburgh to win this game. I think Cleveland losing to backups in Week 17 to miss the playoffs would be the most Browns thing ever.
I do too, which is why I would really like to pick the Steelers also. I can't see picking Mason Rudolph, though. And I think the Steelers have some older players. They're going to rest a lot of them. Steve, I'm going to go with the Browns.
Yeah, I just don't think Baker Mayfield's been on target very well the last 3 games. He's been a little just kind of – he's not playing bad football. He just hasn't been the dynamic Baker Mayfield we saw a little earlier in the season. I don't know what the seeding positioning is. All these teams now have sat there in their war rooms figuring out the scenarios of who they're going to play, who they don't, who they're going to match up against. They have every scenario on a chalkboard, in the war room there. I'm sure they do. And they're figuring out who they'd rather play. Like if I was Pittsburgh, I would definitely want to get my hands on the Colts because I don't think the Colts have ever beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs. I don't know if they've ever done it.
Yes, they have.
One time, I think.
No, 1975. Pittsburgh destroyed the Baltimore Colts.
That's the Baltimore Colts.
In 1976, Pittsburgh destroyed the Baltimore Colts also. You're right, because Indianapolis doesn't even have a right to have a football team because they had to steal somebody else's.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh in this game too.
Oh, also,
but I think Cleveland's gonna give it to them.
Also, remember this. I think what was the 1995 AFC Championship game? Pittsburgh beat the Colts, and then the wild card game the next year, Pittsburgh beat the Colts too. No, they weren't. They lost 20-16, so they couldn't have ever been up by a mile. But then Pittsburgh destroyed them in '96 too. And I don't have to look this up, and I'm not a Colts fan, but I can tell you this: the Steelers have only lost to the Colts once in the playoffs ever, and the Steelers are 4-1 against the Colts. There you go, Sam.
My point is, I'm sure that the Pittsburgh, war chiefs have figured this all out. And this game has relative importance to Pittsburgh just for positioning and seeding. Now, we don't know what's going to happen on the other end because that could all jumble up too. But I think Pittsburgh still, as much as they can, wants to control their own destiny. I still think they're a little bit better football team than Cleveland. And I think that Tomlin's one of the better coaches in the NFL. And I think Pittsburgh I would take Pittsburgh in this game.
All right, Steve Rizzer has got the Dolphins, Browns, Ravens, and Titans winning. The Colts are the team I have out at 11-5. That's a great call, Steve Rizzer.
Yeah,
Next up.
You know what they say about opinions, Steve Rizzer? Everybody has one, and they all smell like what?
What do they smell like, Steve?
Well, I don't know if it's
a G-rated show or assholes. Next up, the Vikings will travel to Detroit to play the Lions. I'm just picking the Vikings. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, the Lions have said they're going to have Matthew Stafford this game. They won't have wide receiver Kenny Galladay. I don't think it matters. I'm taking Minnesota.
All right, Steve.
Lame duck coaching staff. They know they're all gone. I think what I was reading about, the thing about Detroit, you might see the kitchen sink thrown at them with trick plays and things like that. I don't know if they'll be effective or not, but Detroit's been kind of known for trying the gimmicks anyway. What do they got to lose? Coaching staff's going to be turned aside after the game. But Minnesota wins this game.
All right, next up, Jets, Patriots, Steve.
Well, I think the thing here for the Patriots is they've got to figure out what they're going to do with quarterback next year. Obviously, Cam wasn't the answer to their problems. I think that Belichick doesn't want to go out on a losing record on a losing season. I think this is a Patriots game all the way.
Sam?
This game is hard to pick than I thought it would be. I'm going to lean towards the Pats just because of Bill Belichick. I don't believe Bill Belichick will ever game off. I think he'll play hard. He'll make his guys play hard to win every game. I think Sam Darnold at this point is a better quarterback than Cam Newton. I just don't believe the Jets are coachable enough to win this game.
All right, I'm going to take the Jets. I mean, the Jets did beat Sean McVay, who was the coach of the year a couple of years ago, and Kevin Stefanski, who's up for it this year. I like the Jets to win the game. I think the difference is Sam Darnold's an actual NFL quarterback. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hey, I just one quick question. We've kind of covered that area already. Is there a weather situation on the East Coast?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's the Jets and the Patriots. They're not going to score any points either.
Well, I'm talking about all these games. Buffalo, Pittsburgh, all of them could be affected by weather.
They could be, but I don't know. Sam's supposed to be on the weather thing. He's our weather girl.
Oh, awesome.
All right, Steve, Falcons, Buccaneers.
I think Brady has a lot of Belichick in him. I think the Bucs go at this hard. I think the Bucs can improve their seeding. They can get the best wild card seed, can't they? The number 4 or 5 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can play for the number 5 seed. They have something to play for. Brady has a lot of that mentality from Belichick of, hey, we come out here, we get a job to do, we win football games. And I think Brady knows the value of keeping your momentum rolling, going into the playoffs. So I think the Bucs going to walk away.
All right, I like the Bucs also. The Falcons played really well last week, only lost 17-14, but I had to take something out of them, Sam. Now they go to Tampa. I think the Bucs will win as long as Brady plays.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Bucs have already said they're going to go all out for this game, so I fully expect Tampa Bay to win this one and probably win by 2 or 3 scores.
All right, next up, the Green Bay Packers against the Chicago Bears. Who would have thought we'd have said this 5 weeks ago? But if the Bears win, they're in the playoffs. Sam, what do you think? Packers, Bears.
Now, I still have to go with the Packers here because the Packers have said they're playing for playoffs positioning as well here. They have to make sure they stave off the Saints to get that number 1 seed. So I expect the Packers to go out there and win this game. It could be a close one because the Bears' defense has gotten better as the season's gone along. And Trubisky obviously is playing much better than what we expect him to at the beginning of the year. I still don't see a way the Bears beat Aaron Rodgers, though. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are the best wide receiver quarterback combo in the league right now. The offensive line has lost David Bakhtiari and for the rest of the year. That could be a significant thing in the playoffs, but I don't think it's going to make a difference in this game.
I think this will be a close game, but I think Mitchell Trubisky's Mitchell Trubisky, and at least once or twice in this game, he's going to deliver one of those top-of-the-line, stupid-ass mistakes he makes. I think the Packers win the game, and the Bears, to make the playoffs, will need the Cardinals to lose to the Rams. At least I believe that's the way it goes. Steve, Packers or Bears?
I got to go with the Packers. But, the Packers have got to play hard because Seattle still can get the number 1 seed too.
So can New Orleans.
Yeah, so there's 2 other teams that if the Packers screw up, they don't get the bye week, and they're playing a tougher team going down the list. So it's an important game for Green Bay. But I agree with you, my buddy Trubinsky.
Trubisky.
It's Trubinsky to me.
It's Trubisky.
I think that he's not reliable for 40 minutes for the football. It's more reliable for about 35 minutes. And that's not going to be enough to handle the Green Bay Packers, who I think are playing some of the best football in the league right now. At least they're Rodgers is playing the best football of any individual in the league right now.
So would you make him the MVP over Patrick Mahomes?
Yes. Right now I would.
Okay. Next up, the Raiders against the Broncos in a matchup that means absolutely nothing.
Well, you say that, but it does.
What's it mean?
The quarterback for Denver, Drew Lock, he's playing for his position for next year.
He's really not.
That's there. Every kind of report I've read said he is.
He's not. I mean, if he is, they're stupid because, what if he plays a good game against the Raiders? What the hell does that mean?
Who's the general manager of the Broncos?
John Elway.
What do you think of him?
I think that he is a guy that is going to throw Drew Lock to the wolves, act like it was his and Vic Fangio's fault, and try to find another quarterback.
Okay. Did you see Peyton's interview with him? On Peyton's Places?
I don't watch Peyton's Place because Peyton Manning's a disgusting human being.
Okay.
Well, he is. I mean, the woman he paid the almost $1 million off to because he groped her in college when she was supposed to be the trainer. I'll say enough about that. If you want, I can pull that article up for you too, and everybody can see it. That's what I thought. All right, so who you got? Raiders or Broncos, Steve?
I got Broncos.
What do you got, Sam?
Yeah, I'm taking the Raiders. I just don't trust the Broncos and their offense right now. I don't understand they have a good running game. The offensive line's been much better this year than it was last season, but it's Drew Lock at quarterback versus Derek Carr. Obviously, I'm going with Derek Carr on the situation.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Derek Carr also, but I could see it going the other way. I think it's a 50-50.
Derek Carr's been quarterback for the Raiders, last 2 weeks and then gotten crap done. That's a crap team right now.
Yeah, but
I expected more out of the Raiders than what we got out of them.
I didn't. I think that 7-9 or 8-8 is what I expected.
Well, but
I expected more 5 weeks ago.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my point. 5 weeks ago, I expected this to be a solid playoff team. And now they're just puking on themselves.
Yeah, but if you watch the Miami game, the reason this team is not a playoff team is coaching. It's not quarterback.
I agree. I was getting ready to say that. I think this falls on Gruden's shoulders. Gruden won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. I get it, but he walked into that team, and it got handed to him. And he didn't build that team or do it. He just walked in his first year, took that team, and they won. And, you look at what he's doing in Oakland or in Las Vegas now. Although they changed, cities more often than whatever.
Okay. Next up, Steve, we'll start you off. The Jaguars at the Colts. The Colts are favored by 14 points. But we have seen two teams favored by more than that lose over the last week or two.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, you got to go with the Colts with that 14 points. But, this is a team, this and the last 20 minutes of the Pittsburgh game are the team that'll keep the Colts out of the playoffs because they come out the first game of the season and lose to the Jaguars. And Jaguars go on to not win another game until have they even won another game or they got 1 or 2 wins?
None.
So their only win this year is the Colts.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So, that game and the last 20 minutes of the Pittsburgh game when they were up by 20 points, cost the Colts if they miss the playoffs. There's your thing right there. So I think the Colts are going to be ready. I know Costanzo's out for the season. And their backup left tackle is out too. And Rivers got sacked a season high 5 times last game. So he's going to get a little happy feet, and he don't have happy feet. So if he's going to start rushing his throws and hurrying his throws, his arm's not strong enough to compensate for that. I think this game's going to be a little tougher for the Colts than everybody thinks it's going to be. But I'd rather be playing Jacksonville than what the other 3 teams going for the playoffs have to play right now. So I got the Colts. I don't know if they're going to win by 14, but I think they'll get away with a win.
All right. I think the Colts will win this game easy. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, the Jags are starting Mike Glennon. I mean, the Colts are going to win this game. If they don't win this game, they're going to make the playoffs. It's that simple.
Right.
All right. Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Los Angeles Chargers. Steve?
I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Chiefs win this game. Chiefs doesn't seem to be a guy who lays down players. I'm assuming Mahomes is going to start and play. No, he's not.
I don't know. They said they're planning to rest.
Mahomes is going to sit.
It says they're resting key players.
Then it makes it a better game. Chargers are a streaking team right now. I mean, they played some of their best football. I don't know how good their best football is, but they play some of their best football, and they're just stupid enough right now to give the Chiefs a run and maybe force Reed to put his starters in if he wants to win the game. I don't think it changes the seeding, doesn't it? Haven't they locked up the number 1 seed?
It doesn't
matter.
I think this. I
got to go with the Chiefs just because they only had 1 loss all year.
The problem with
I
this
can easily see Chargers winning this game.
The problem with this is, Steve, I mean, the Chiefs are sitting Patrick Mahomes, but the Chargers have been missing players left and right all year long. I think the Chargers. Okay. I'm going to go with the Chargers here, Sam.
No, I'm with you right there. I think the Chargers are going to win as well, but they are going to be missing Keenan Allen, I know. I think he's on the COVID list. They're not going to have him. And Joey Bosa is probably going to be out as well. So they're missing 2 of the best players on their team. I would still go with the Chargers just because they have more offensive firepower. And let's be honest, it's Justin Herbert who has some issues, but it's Chad Henne on the other side. Take the Chargers in this one.
Chad Henne's still in the league?
I know, right?
I didn't know that. All right, next up, the Seattle Seahawks against the San Francisco 49ers. Sam?
Yeah, I'm taking Seattle in this one. I think Russell Wilson understands there is something to play for here in playoff seeding. And I don't think there's a way that the Seahawks lay down in a Week 17 game where they can possibly get the number 1 seed in the conference and get a bye week. It would take a lot for that to happen, but I think they will play up, and they'll make sure they beat the 49ers who have upset some teams this year.
All right, Steve?
I agree with Sam.
All right, yeah, the Seahawks will win this game. I think they win this game easy. There's a big difference between the 2 teams. Next up, the Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. If the Tennessee Titans win, they win the AFC South. If the Houston Texans win, it would be a miracle. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, your brain tells you to go with Tennessee on this one. Although Deshaun Watson definitely is somebody you can screw with you. I mean, he's got that capability as a quarterback, but I don't think he has enough weaponry to go around it with him. Obviously, I would love to see that happen. but I think realistically Tennessee wins this game going away.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be ugly, Sam. I mean, we saw Texas defense to completely quit last week. Plus, the Titans are coming off getting their ass beat in Green Bay, so you know they're going to want to prove some stuff. I think the Titans win this game easy. What do you think?
You know, I'm right there with you. Ryan Tannehill just had the worst game of his season so far, and possibly the worst game of his short time with the Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry didn't have a great game. I think they'll rebound. Houston's defense is absolutely horrible. Deshaun Watson is going to play, and I said, I think yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, it was unsure if he would play or not. It sounds like Cornell's expecting Watson to play. I don't know why you would put him in harm's way yet again when you have nothing to play for. It sounds like Watson's going to be available. With him, I still think Tennessee wins this by 2 or 3 scores.
Do they Henry's about 230 yards, 223 yards short of 2,000. Do they go for it with him, or do they rest him, take care of him?
I think
you're
up by 21 points. I mean, 21 or 17 points at halftime. The number.
Yeah. I mean, he could get 230 yards against that defense.
He could get that in the first half.
Yeah, he could. But I didn't know if you guys thought that they let him make a run for 2,000, because that doesn't happen very often in the NFL. Or if they just say, hey, you know, we got bigger fish to fry, and that's being in Tampa. And
well, the thing is this, they've got to win the game to even make the playoffs. So they're going to have to play him, and they're going to have to give him the ball a lot in the first half anyways, because they got to wrap this up. And with the Houston Texans, you know, as a Colts fan, both times you guys played the Texans, it went down to the final minute, and Deshaun Watson had his team with a chance to win the game. So the Texans are not to be, you know, overlooked just because of Deshaun Watson.
No, I go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead, Steve. You got it.
No, I just said I looked at this game when I was doing the pre-work, and you know, Watson, this game is 30% dangerous. I mean, if Watson goes berserk, this could be a really good game, but he's got to go berserk. Otherwise, it's a cakewalk.
Well, he went berserk last week on the Bengals. They scored 31 points. The problem was the Texas defense was so bad they couldn't stop the Bengals' backup quarterback, and they still gave up 37. I still think either way you look at this leads to a Titans victory.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it probably won't be as easy as we think it will be just because of Deshaun Watson, which leads me to this. College football's on all day today. I know Risley's a Notre Dame fan. Sam, does Notre Dame have a chance against Alabama?
I hate to break it to you, Steve, but it's not looking too good. I mean, you just look on both sides of the ball right now. I like Kyron Williams. Yeah. I really do. Notre Dame's running back is really good. I like Jeremiah Owusu-Karamo. I think that's how you say his name. He's the starting linebacker for Notre Dame. He's going to be a future first pick. But Alabama has guys like that every year, and they have 3 other guys like that right now at their positions. And they got Mac Jones, who's better than Ian Book, I think. They got Devonta Smith, who is the AP Player of the Year. I just don't see a way that Notre Dame can score with Alabama. I think Alabama's going to score 45 points. I don't think Notre Dame will be able to do that.
You want my opinion? I mean, yeah, I'm a Notre Dame fan, but personally, they don't belong in this group of 4. I think there's teams like Cincinnati out there and
Oklahoma.
Texas A&M, Oklahoma.
I don't think Texas A&M does. If you can't even get to your conference championship game, I don't even think you should be considered in it.
Well, you know, you got Cincinnati, one undefeated, and you got other teams, but Notre Dame is Notre Dame. They you know, that's why they moved the Rose Bowl out of California, because Notre Dame will bring people. And, you know, Jerry Jones in Texas said, we'll fill the stadium for you. I'm sure they're limiting the number of people can see the game. But, you know, I was going to take my bike and ride it down to the Rose Bowl here after we hung up and, you know, buy some cheap seats and go watch the Rose Bowl.
Well, you probably still could. They'll probably have somebody in there to sell you some. All right.
No, I really don't think, Sam, that Notre Dame even belongs in this group of 4. I think Clemson showed them that real quick. And I think Notre Dame is going to do more damage to them than Clemson did.
You mean Alabama?
Alabama, yeah, I'm sorry. Alabama.
I think you end up with a game something like 45-17.
I agree entirely.
I think it's going to be hard either way, because I don't think it matters who you put in the 4th spot. Whoever's playing Alabama, whether it was Cincinnati, no offense, Mike, or A&M or Oklahoma, I don't think it would have mattered. I think you would have ended up with a pretty one-sided game.
See, I think that's stupid to say.
Right. because the Cincinnati.
really
All right, let's hear it.
No,
Let's hear it.
I'm not.
Sam, I'm in your
telling you
camp on
this.
this one, Sam.
I'm telling you this. I believe
Alabama's just too good.
Oklahoma. I believe Oklahoma could have gave Alabama a game.
I don't think so.
Because
Oklahoma
they
defensively
scored a lot of
very
points, but
That's what I mean. And they're going to score. It would be similar to when they played Alabama in the Final Four. What was that, 2 or 3 years ago? And I think the game ended up like 48-35 or something. That's the kind of game you would get. But go ahead.
This is going to come down to Clemson and Alabama. And probably by all accounts, it's going to be a hell of a football game between those two schools.
Well, all I can say is this. When you look at Alabama's schedule, not overly difficult. Of course, neither was Cincinnati's. I can tell you this, though. Cincinnati is a much better football team than Notre Dame. They're better coached. They have a better quarterback. They have a better offensive line. They have a better running game. And they have a significantly better defense. That's all I'll say about that. So, yeah, Alabama might beat Cincinnati by 3 touchdowns, but it's going to be a lot more competitive than Notre Dame trying to play them.
I agree. Yeah. I'm a realistic Notre Dame fan. I mean, I like it mostly because they're in Indiana.
What I'm saying here, Sam, is this. I'm not saying Cincinnati or Oklahoma would beat Alabama. I'm just saying it would be competitive for a half. I don't expect today's game to be competitive by the time we get to halftime.
Yeah, I think you'll be doing something else.
Because when I watch Notre Dame, Sam, and then I watch Cincinnati and Oklahoma athletically are just significantly better than Notre Dame.
Well, I think we'll hit a point where Alabama will come out and score touchdowns on the first 3 drives, and maybe Notre Dame will get a field goal. It'll be 21-3 at the end of the first quarter, and then that'll basically be it.
Yeah. And you're looking at 35-6 at halftime, and then shit gets ugly.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm just saying that I think Cincinnati defensively could have held Alabama to 30 points and lost 30-13 or 30-17. I believe Oklahoma could have scored points, and I think they'd have lost 52-35. I think 42-10, 42-17, and it's going to be one of those 42-10, 42-17s that after you watch it, you think, man, if Alabama would have won it, they'd have scored 60 points.
Right. I think it'll be Alabama holding back and not trying to embarrass Notre Dame too much.
I don't think it's that. I think they've got a game to play the next week. So, I mean, when you look at that, I think Nick Saban would probably love to score 100 points on Brian Kelly and make him look like a fool because Brian Kelly's a fool. But, I mean, let's face it. If you look at – nobody really knows anything about Ryan Day, but the other 3 guys, Brian Kelly, Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, all 3 are insufferable jerks. It makes it hard to cheer for any of them.
So you'd be the 4th face on that Mount Rushmore statue.
Huh?
You'd be the 4th face on that Mount Rushmore statue.
What are you talking about?
Insufferable jerks.
Yeah.
So it'd be Sweeney, what's his name, and
what's his name? What's his name? And Saban.
Notre Dame's coach right now.
Yeah. Notre Dame's coach is Brian Kelly.
It'd be Kelly, Sweeney, and Saban, and then you'd be the 4th one. Insufferable jerks.
I'm fine with that, as long as I'm on Mount Rushmore.
No, it'd be Mount Goodpaster.
Okay, Steve. Better than being Mount Risley, which sounds like a porn movie you probably ran in the mid-'80s. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Sam, do you have anything to say before we wrap it up?
You're not going to talk about the Clemson Ohio State game?
Oh, okay. Clemson, Ohio State, because, we
got a graduate of the school here.
So let's give it to me, Risley. Clemson or Ohio State?
Clemson by a mile.
Okay. Bobby Sheridan picking Ohio State.
Sheridan, he's been doing a lot of splaining, Lucy, lately about his picks missing.
All I know is this: the professional money, he said, is on them. I think this. I think that Clemson has Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
that's all they need. That and defensively, I think they are far better than anything Ohio State's played. Ohio State's only played 6 games. The best competition they played has been Indiana and Northwestern. They struggled with Indiana and Northwestern. Clemson, no matter what you say about Notre Dame, I think it's safe to say this. Notre Dame is one of the best 10 teams in the country, probably top 6 or 7. And Clemson just toyed with them and beat them to death. So I think that when you look at this game, I think Ohio State's running game will keep this game relatively close. That kid is Sermon is a hell of a running back. I think Justin Fields, and I didn't mean to say that because I think Justin Fields is infinitely better than Dwayne Haskins. But I think Justin Fields has trouble when he's rushed and he has to move in the pocket. I don't think he reads a defense well. And I think what you'll have is Clemson's defensive line is very underrated. I think they've gotten 44 sacks this year in 11 games, which is 4 sacks a game. When their defense is only given up, I think, 17 points a game in it, Sam. And they've only given up over 300 yards passing, I think, once this year. So when I look at this is a game where Ohio State's got to win the game running the ball. Clemson has multiple ways they can win. Travis Etienne is a really good running back. But if I'm Dabo Swinney, I'm coming out and I'm letting Trevor Lawrence just throw the ball. We watched, IU's quarterback, Phil Yaw, who's nowhere near Trevor Lawrence, throw for almost 500 yards against Ohio State. Ohio State is here because they're Ohio State. Notre Dame is here because they're Notre Dame. Alabama and Clemson would be there because that's who they are. But they are also consistently the 2 or 2 to 3 best teams every year in college football. So it gets old, I think, having to watch Ohio State and Notre Dame constantly get to fail on a big stage. Now, at least in Ohio State's defense, every once in a while, they win a national championship like they did that one year. And I think that the way they won that national championship was Ezekiel Elliott. And I think if they were to win it this time, it's going to be the Sermon kid because Cardell Jones, we know, wasn't a great quarterback. We know Justin Fields isn't. And if anybody drafts him second, they're crazy. I can tell you this, though. I watched a lot of film of a Wilson kid from BYU yesterday. That kid, really I think, is legit. He's legit. I mean, that's a kid I think that if the Jets don't want to go with Darnold, you could go with the Wilson kid with the number 2 pick. But my question is, he's from BYU. Does that mean he's a Mormon? Is he not going to fit in New York?
All right. So we're all picking Clemson in a walk away. Let me ask you a final question, Mike. I'm sorry. I've done a lot of studying this morning. It's still only not 9 o'clock here yet. What's the Bengals quarterback name that got hurt? I can't think of his name right now.
Joe Burrow.
Burrow or Lawrence? Is Lawrence in the category of Joe Burrow? Is he that good? He's
just below Joe Burrow. I think there is a difference in the way they see the game. I think that's what makes Burrow and a guy like Andrew Luck so special, and the Peyton Mannings and Tom Brady's of the world. But Trevor Lawrence is close. To me, Trevor Lawrence is a can't-miss prospect. He's going to be an all-pro quarterback, and he will be better than Tua. He will be better than Herbert. He will be just below Burrow. And, 10 years from now, maybe the Brady-Manning rivalry, they'll be comparing to what Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence have, even though Trevor Lawrence looks like Martina Navratilova.
Guy kind of does. I just noticed that.
He looks good. I told you that like 2 years ago, and I even posted a picture. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Yeah. Cincinnati, Georgia. Who wins?
Sam, good luck.
Good luck, Sam. Steve, Cincinnati or Georgia? Who you picking?
Cincinnati.
Sam.
No, I'm with you on that one. Cincinnati. We'll see if the hype's real.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
We're not going to know if the hype's real. I mean, you've only got 4 teams that are playing to win anything. Anybody else? Dude, I'm telling you this. When people tell me, like when Auburn lost to UCF, everybody's, well, it meant more to UCF. Dude, if I'm UCF, I'm pissed off because I'm not in the Final Four.
Has Cincinnati played anybody like Georgia? Have they played an SEC team?
No, not this year. They played Tulsa, who lost by a point to Mississippi State in that brawl game. I think Tulsa and Mississippi State, I think, lost to Georgia by like a touchdown. So I think Tulsa's a pretty good team. I think the SEC outside, I mean, look what happened to Florida. I mean, Dan Mullen looks like the biggest ass around anyways, doesn't he? Talking about how he had his scout team wanted to go play, and there's no way Oklahoma would have beat them if Florida would have had all their starters. I think that is weak as hell, Sam. That is weak.
No, he was one.
He shouldn't have played the game.
He lost the game. Except
hey, how about this? Why didn't he ever at his press conference go into the game and say, hey, guys, we're going to get the hell beat out of us, but I wanted these young kids to play. Then he could say what he's saying now. But he didn't. He thought they were going to win the game. And I can tell you this. I've watched Florida all year. All year their defense was terrible, and they had no running game. Oklahoma was going to beat the hell out of them no matter what they do. And that's why I think the SEC is overrated because I think it's Alabama and then everybody else. It's like the ACC. The ACC is not great. It's just Clemson.
Yeah, and occasionally like LSU with Joe Burrow pop up maybe 1 year in the SEC, 5 years there'll be another good one, but it's not consistent.
Yeah, and in Clemson, maybe Miami, Florida will pop up and be good 1 year and get beat 40-17 when they get shot on the big stage. But all right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. So we will be back.
So how bad did I win last week? Did I kill you guys?
No, you won by a game.
Oh, well, okay. I won.
Okay, that's why we told you.
You didn't tell me. I just found out about it today.
I texted it to you, Steve. Look back.
No, you didn't. I got all the texts you've ever sent me.
I know.
Including the 12 of them that told me I'm fired from being on your radio show.
Never again. That. You just begged me all the time to get rid of you, and I wouldn't just because you wanted me to.
Okay.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up.
Good luck, Sam. Good luck to the Tigers.
Make sure you check us out on Rockfin. Follow us on Facebook. You can follow us at Grilly Truth on Twitter. You can follow Steve Risley at SRisley34 on Twitter. Sam Teets at Sam Teets33. Correct, Sam?
Correct.
All right, and we will be back Monday to talk about the teams that are in the playoffs. Hopefully the Colts won't be one of them. But until then, for Steve Risley, Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpastor. You've been listening and watching The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.